I was 32 when I discovered my grandpa's 5 unreturned Blockbuster VHS tapes in the attic. Dust danced in the shafts of light as I went through old boxes, seeking to relive memories of weekends spent with him. The attic was a museum of sorts, where old furniture met the muted scent of nostalgia, and dust motes floated like time itself had forgotten them. I was still reeling from the loss of my wife. Grief had become a strange companion, often swallowing me whole when I least expected it. I thought returning to simpler times might heal my heart, so I rifled through each box, yearning for comfort. As I pulled the tapes from their resting place, I felt an odd mix of anticipation and unease. They were labeled in my grandpa's neat handwriting, each a ritual for Friday nights in March 2000. The Blockbuster logo smiled at me with a familiarity that pulled me back to memories of buttered popcorn and laughter rattling through the living room, my wife nestled against my side, a warm cocoon of joy. Those moments had felt like invincible, unbreakable strings connecting our lives. 5 tapes, one for each Friday. I couldn't help but smile, almost laughing at how outdated those clunky things were when I had long switched to streaming services. Nostalgia tugged at my heart, persuading me that it was worth bringing them back home. But as I read the titles, unease settled beneath my excitement. The familiar logo on the tapes evoked a haunting memory. My late wife would have smiled at these reminders of simpler times. After a few hours, I had reached my car, tapes clutched tightly in my grasp. The weight felt heavier than I had anticipated. Something about it felt wrong, like a heaviness coating my excitement and dread. With a deep breath, I decided to conquer my curiosity. I was determined to find closure that the past often denied. But standing in my living room, staring at the colorful VHS cases, I felt an ache deep inside, a profound absence where my wife would have been. As I prepared to watch the tapes, I felt a hollow pit of loss in my stomach that would not subside. Would the films deliver joy or merely deepen the void? With each flick of the dial on my VCR, I hoped the family stories held in those tapes would bridge the distance between then and now. But as I pulled out the last tape, a strange title caught my eye. Our Last Date. Confusion echoed in my mind, a dark thought creeping in. How did that get there? My mind flashed back to the year 2000, where VHS rentals painted the landscape of family entertainment. Grandpa, a fixture of warmth and gentility, had fostered a tradition of Friday night movie marathons that felt sacred. Each week held the promise of laughter, excitement, and togetherness. My memories of him centered around an endless supply of popcorn, the soothing glow of the television, and a beloved assortment of films from Blockbuster. As I sat there, I remembered that one Friday night when my wife had joined us, the first time I brought her home. She'd worn that laugh, radiant as the sun, lighting up the darkness. I could almost hear her voice as Grandpa screamed the latest animated film, a delightful escape. Back then, everything felt comfortingly predictable. The world revolved around us, and time almost seemed to stand still, a luxury we took for granted. The first 2 tapes held titles I recognized, Toy Story and The Parent Trap, classics packed with familiarity. I played each one, enveloped in memories that were both comforting and bittersweet. There was nothing unusual, just the joyful tales we embraced 22 years ago. Yet the feeling of nostalgia was tainted. It was a nagging sense that something lay beneath the surface. Every Friday was accounted for, March 3, March 10th, and March 17, each corresponding to a rental date. But as the titles brightened my living room, I felt a creeping anticipation before arriving at the final tape. Nothing about the first 2 tapes suggested anything was amiss. But then I reached the last tape, labeled Our Last Date. My heart raced, thoughts swirling. This title seemed somehow too personal, too close to home. I hesitated before sliding the last tape into the VCR. As it clicked into place, I braced for normalcy. I can still remember the hollow emptiness in my chest as the screen flickered and the familiar startup visuals appeared. The familiar sound of the film rolling sent my heart racing. I was neither prepared nor ready for what followed. The image sharpened, and there we were, my wife and I, the two of us seated at a cozy booth in our favorite restaurant, laughing, the glow of candlelight painting our features with warmth. My breath hitched. In disbelief, I flicked the play button again, watching the video continue to unfold. But as memories danced before my eyes, a cold chill crept down my spine. This was a meal we never had. It was as if the camera had captured a moment I'd only imagined, a figment of my hopes, and it felt too real. I glanced at the date, feeling both drawn in and repulsed. September 15th, 2024. Today. The futility of disbelief washed through me. My late wife had passed away 6 months prior. As images of those foreign moments twirled across the screen, a surge of emotions crashed over me like a flood. Jaw clenched, I fought the familiar wave of sorrow threatening to swallow me whole. Tears slipped down my cheeks as I grappled with this impossible revelation. This didn't belong here, couldn't exist. My wife was gone. Yet here was a version of her, laughing with me, alive on screen. I felt a knot twisting in my gut. The realization rattled me. My mind raced frantically. How could this be real? Surely this was just some odd chance, a mix-up at Blockbuster. Yet every time I replayed the segment, the unease became more pronounced, each detail affirming what my heart refused to acknowledge. I seized a journal and documented all that had happened. It remained unsettling, a tangible reminder of a reality I could hardly wrap my head around. Everything aligned. The previous tapes were mundane glimpses into long-forgotten family routines. But this last tape shattered that routine, introducing a rift through which time poured like a broken dam. A spreadsheet filled with discrepancies began to form, outlining dates and events no one could explain. Each entry echoed my life while suggesting that the impossible was happening right in front of me. Film after film, I searched for something unfamiliar. This couldn't just be chance. The realization began to sink in, the weight of it suffocating. I was faced with past moments threatening to redefine my understanding of time and memory. How did I get here, trapped between grief and impossibility? It felt as if something sinister loomed, wrapping around my heart. When I returned to the footage, everything stared back at me, demanding acknowledgement of what I couldn't change. I began to wonder if I was even supposed to try anymore. Then the realization struck. I was no longer witnessing a random collection of films from a bygone era. Rather, these tapes now translated into a puzzle with pieces that were all too horrifyingly familiar. Reviewing them, I recognized uncomfortable truths and terrifying turning points between the frames. There was a pattern, chilling correlations. The vision seemed to reveal the very fabric of my future. I recognized the dates each time. Significant anniversaries, the day I'd proposed, the moment I had hoped for in the future. Every tape whispered a warning about the life I was building, allusions to truths I never should have seen. And with that realization came understanding. The warm nostalgia morphed into a binding fear. Those Friday night flicks weren't just memories, but guidelines. Perhaps even premonitions of moments I hadn't realized I would encounter. Weeks passed while I recorded all the peculiarities, now forming a bridge between time lost and time anticipated. I tried to reason with it, but I could not escape the relentless decline into paranoia. Every film felt like a surveillance, predicting events I was not prepared to face. How could this be? Each finding forced me deeper into a maze of horrifying repetitions. As months slipped into one another, the implications churned inside me, merging background scenes into recognizable symbols of my journey. But how did my grandpa know? Perhaps even he had glimpsed signs of the future through his films, connected across time in a tapestry I had only begun to unravel. It was a heavy burden, this realization, one that left no more room for self-deception. Every time a particular date approached, I was ever watchful. I felt as if every choice was one made years ago, as if I were running in circles woven by someone else's hands. Then I dug into Grandpa's old journal offerings, discussions around fate intertwined with his own reflections on time. Anxiety mounted as I remembered the anecdote shared at our family gathering about his warning of tangents. What if, through his decisions, he gifted me something I didn't deserve? My heart raced frantically as I grasped the heavier truth. I was not just a passive observer. My whole existence felt copied, rehearsed, and predetermined by long-lost memories staged. Still, my wife's fate felt intertwined with these happenings. Days came and went, each one steeped in a familiarity that made me spiral even deeper into despair. And so I began to act, propelled by terror into a desperate attempt to challenge this fate woven before me. Each move I made, dictated by those reveals in the tapes, all converged towards an inevitable confrontation. How could I change a narrative that had already transpired? What if they were warnings, not memories, and I simply hadn't understood? I strove for control, but with each failed attempt to alter a seemingly fixed fate, that void within my chest deepened. They had foreseen it all. I could feel the premonition suffocating me, casting shadows on every decision I made. Each dreadful echo of my wife's laughter tore apart the fibers of my sanity. Was I simply meant to let it all play out? Each attempt at intervention had only made it worse. It was as if I were setting a new course, only to be thwarted by those very events that choked me. Finally, after soaking in the implications, peering through the lens of their purpose, acceptance began to settle like a heavy fog. The tapes had delivered profound wisdom, burying me deep within an obelisk of hurt as I recognized that life, death, love, and pain reverberated as a cyclic creation. While I'd searched for answers, all I had done was revisit familiar pain, an emotional map rendered across generations. In the quiet aftermath of each revelation, I came to terms with that depth, realizing Grandpa's past and mine were intricately connected. Those tapes contained fragments, glimpses into a world where my choices mattered, yet remained shackled by an unseen force. And with that acceptance often comes the harsher truths. It wasn't merely a haunting memory, but a bittersweet reminder shaped for us both, now bound eternally in those frames. The significance of their existence was far more ambiguous than I'd anticipated. Time operated on a spectrum I couldn't simply comprehend, perpetually flowing and folding into itself. Now, seated amidst the echoes of our shared past, I still have the tapes crammed inside a worn box, remnants of memories, empty reminders of loss. Days drift into night. I'm still overwhelmed by the weight they place upon me. Yet each revelation doesn't just linger in the echo of what was, but hints at the unseen. Just last week, as I wandered through the same attic, I stumbled upon an unexpected find. Tucked beneath an old coat, in the depths of a forgotten recess, lay an additional tape. I hesitated, heart thumping. Even as I held it, I couldn't ignore its date. Yesterday. Holding the fresh tape in my trembling hands, I felt both dread and curiosity collide within me. It bore no title, just the date scribbled in my grandfather's meticulous handwriting. Yesterday. My pulse quickened, a primal urge propelling me to flee from this new, ominous find. Yet another part of me pushed to excavate deeper. What new horrors, what new truths lay hidden in this slightly worn shell? With a mix of anxiety and determination, I turned to my VCR once more. The weight of my past pressed down upon my shoulders. I had explored the implications of the tapes I already unearthed, and here stood a fresh enigma. Raising my breath, I slid the tape into the VCR and pressed play. The screen flickered momentarily before showcasing the haunting Blockbuster logo against an unfamiliar backdrop. I gripped the remote, my heart pounding in time to the whir of the machine. At first, there was silence, a swirling void that fed my trepidation. The familiar hum of the VCR filled the room, but it was suffocated beneath an overwhelming tension. The static faded as images began to form. As the video gained clarity, I froze. There I was, seated in a familiar restaurant booth across from my wife. My breath hitched dramatically as I saw her joyful smile, the same one that had brightened my world just a week before her passing. It wrenched at my heart, a bright flare of warmth contrasting with the suffocating emptiness surrounding me. Memories surged forth from the recesses of my mind, laughter, shared glances, the comforting hues of candlelight. But as the details sharpened, an unsettling realization crossed my mind. This was a meal we had never shared. September 15, 2024, flashed prominently on the screen, marking a date that loomed on the horizon, a date I had long since associated with loss. An icy chill crawled up my spine. The tape captured her at a point in time when she was still alive. Yet here I sat, bereft and yearning for what once was. Tears blurred my vision as I observed my past in the form of something wholly unnatural, a moment preserved and replayed in a medium I had long since retired from. My heart constricted painfully, bewilderment tearing at me. What was this madness? Was I witnessing a ghost of the future? Or had my memories been intertwined with the fabric of this odd reality? I feverishly recorded my thoughts in a journal, details swirling as I attempted to sort the chaos. How could these films, so familiar yet infinitely foreign, adjust the very nature of memory itself? They felt weighted with meaning, laden with significance. I rummaged through the ongoing timeline, marking each date and details I now deemed crucial. There was a pattern echoing throughout the chaotic compilation, a desperate reminder of the anxiety that had settled deep within me since I had initially viewed the first tape. My heart raced as I confronted the implications of what I had unearthed. The intersections between desire and regret painted a haunting picture. They mimicked destiny in a way I never understood. As I sat there on that lonely night, each newly realized connection throbbed vividly, binding me to moments I wasn't ready to accept. I sensed a gravitational pull, drawing me towards something sinister, a fate entwined amongst the remnants of my family's memories that I had yet to understand. Just as twilight settled softly around me, I knew I was standing at the precipice of revelation, with echoes of love and loss intertwined and mysteries waiting to cascade. Every beat seemed to promise I was merely scratching the surface, and perhaps, just perhaps, a deeper truth within those dusty tapes begged for me to complete the unraveling. With a trembling hand, I pressed play. The screen lit up momentarily, revealing the familiar Blockbuster logo, a pale specter of the past I couldn't shake. What memories did this tape hold? Was it a window, an echo, or a premonition? The static buzzed quietly as if waiting for me. My heart raced, anticipating the revelations to come. As the picture began to sharpen, I froze. There I was, a younger version of myself seated across from an unmistakable figure, my wife, her laughter bubbling like sunlight through clear waters. But deep within the warmth of that joyful moment lay an unsettling dissonance. September 15, 2024, was emblazoned across the top of the screen, an image of a future I now knew would never materialize. The cozy booth and flickering candlelight felt achingly real, tugging at fragmented memories of a life forever altered. Yet I understood this memory wasn't ours. I had never filmed this dinner, nor had we ever shared it. My heart sank further into despair. The weight of longing and loss threatened to crush me under their intensity.
I fumbled with my journal, feverishly scribbling down the details, each entry a desperate attempt to make sense of the unraveling strands of my reality. In this moment, I was unraveling, but also connecting. I began to see patterns echoed throughout this collection of tapes, circular timelines revealing untold truths I had been blind to until this newfound scrutiny. These images became ominous rather than nostalgic. Every meal we had shared, every foolish laugh I had taken for granted morphed into whispers, shadowy hints of destiny spiraling around me like a tightening noose. Determined to uncover whatever truths were hidden in these tapes, I dipped into my grandfather's journals. Each page felt like an outlet, pouring out the wisdom of years seasoned with warning. How had he navigated this intricate web of memory and fate? Perhaps he sensed, even back then, that these tapes were more than simple recordings. They were vessels of something deeper, spiritual connections across time. As I pondered these links, a creeping sense of paranoia settled over me, a feeling as though I was being watched, guided by unseen hands. It struck me then that I was not merely observing, but partaking in a dialogue with fate itself. What should I do? I muttered to myself, my reflection mingling with the flickering images on the screen. The weight of my discoveries urged me towards action. Frantic for control, I reached out to those potential threads of fate woven into each tape. If there was a warning, a guide, perhaps I could alter the choreography of my life. But each attempt felt futile, as if I were trapped in an endless loop. Did the future remain malleable, or was I simply replaying a predetermined course? As the realization crystallized within me, frustration bubbled to the surface. How could I navigate this path of fate? Sharing this story and hoping for clarity seemed vital. If you're intrigued by my journey and want to unravel these mysteries with me, subscribe to the channel. There's an entire world waiting beyond these tapes, and together we might unveil truths that shouldn't remain hidden, that might offer hope even amid despair. Steeling myself for the conclusion of the tape, I knew I was on the brink of a revelation I desperately needed. Whatever fate awaited me lurked just beyond the horizon, a reflection of choices past and perhaps glimpses of what could still be. The anticipation gnawed at me as the images glimmered on the screen, teasing my understanding as I prepared to plunge into the depths of my family's enigmatic legacy once more. As I settled deeper into the chair, the anticipation crackled in the air like static before a storm. The tape whirred and flickered on the screen, revealing my younger self sitting across from my wife. Her laughter danced in the air, bubbling with life and joy. The warm glow of the restaurant illuminated her features, evoking a tenderness that felt almost palpable. Yet the joy came with a suffocating weight. The knowledge that this moment belonged to a future that would never take place loomed like a dark shadow behind my mind. September 15, 2024, the screen declared, and a chill traced my spine as the laughter echoed. I hadn't shared this dinner with her. I hadn't even been aware of this moment until now. I squeezed my eyes shut, struggling to wrap my mind around the unnaturalness of it all. How could I be seeing a future that was already sealed in loss? Tears pricked at my eyes, but I forced myself to focus. I had to understand. I needed to find some thread of clarity among the chaos. As I fumbled for my journal, the familiar printed words began to flow through my mind, intertwining with my grief. I feverishly jotted down my thoughts, relieving the turbulence swirling inside me. The tape was more than just a recording. It was a mystery packed with implications I struggled to decipher. It was in that moment I felt an unsettling experience unfold. I started examining every detail in the frame. The way her hair fell softly over her shoulders, the gentle curve of her smile. Each tiny fragment felt like a breadcrumb, leading me further into uncertainty. And as I watched, the recognition began to dawn on me. Each tape hauntingly echoed moments from the past and hints of futures never realized, yet all were soaked in the intimate familiarity of our lives together. As I pieced it together, I discovered that the other tapes weren't simply snapshots of our history. They were connected, unraveling a continuous loop of existence woven by my grandfather's discernment. I sensed a rhythmic pattern in their interlocking timelines and started cross-referencing various entries from my journals. My energy surged with each realization. There were signs that suggested I was not just observing a linear history, but rather a cycle spiraling in upon itself. The whispers of paranoia began to tighten their grip once more. Had my grandfather left behind more than just artifacts of family moments? Could these films be a cautionary note, an unspoken warning of fate repeated? The timer on my VCR ticked loudly, amplifying my uncertainty. Every frame is a clue, every meal shared like a breadcrumb on a path, I whispered to myself in a hushed breath. Was there something deeper buried in here? A secret about choices and chance that had been preserved tightly within each sinewy ribbon of tape? Desperate for answers, I turned to the timeline I had begun sketching out meticulously. The shapes and patterns formed a web, a narrative arc that hinted at entrapment. What if I could manipulate elements of this existence? What if I could change some part of the future sealed within the confines of these films? Taking a deep breath, I stifled my fears. It was time to share this story, to pull together those who had experienced their own temporal anomalies. I felt a desperate yearning to reach out, to unravel these mysteries together. If you identify with my experiences, I urged as I recorded my thoughts on the forum, hit that like button and let's shed light on the mysteries surrounding us. It felt almost absurd, seeking validation in this chaotic symphony of emotions. Yet I craved those connections, those shared experiences that whispered back at me, promising an understanding of the impossible. As others began to echo back their own stories and presses of assurance flooded my notifications, I felt lighter with the inclusion. This invited a surge of possibilities. What if there were others out there who had stumbled upon inexplicable timelines buried within their family history? Through our collective voices, perhaps we could begin weaving together a narrative far more intricate than one woman lost to the sands of time. The community buzzed with intrigue and empathy, each shared experience acting like a light amid shadows. But even within that hope surged a creeping dread. The deeper I delved into this tangled web of memories and potential futures, the more I felt the pull of despair. Was I haunting my wife's memory in an irreversible cycle? Would I ever escape this inability to change what was meant to be? As the video continued to play, I braced myself for the unraveling of another layer of this haunting legacy. Perhaps there was wisdom hidden within these tapes, and if I was strong enough to confront it, who knew what truths might surface next? With determination freshly planted within my heart, I steeled myself against the emotional tide awaiting me. I could not allow fear to guide me. Instead, I had to fight to discover the connection between love and loss, the eternal dance of time and fate lurking in every frame of these tapes. Each moment captured was a story yet to unfold, a promise wrapped and sealed tightly in the fabric of our lives, a tapestry begging to be unwound. And so, without hesitation, I prepared to step deeper into the unknown. With every passing second, a growing sensation of urgency gripped me as I watched the scene unfold on the screen. My younger self leaned in closer to my wife, her laughter blending seamlessly with the ambient noise of the restaurant, enveloping the surroundings in a comfortable haze. Yet, the joy of that memory twisted like a knife at my heart. This moment wasn't simply nostalgia. This was a glimpse into a future I no longer had a right to claim. As I studied every nuance of their interaction, I was struck by the chilling realization of the beautiful normalcy that surrounded them. It was a normalcy I had yearned for, now shattered by the cruel weight of loss. September 15th, 2024 hung in the air like a specter, taunting me as I tried to untangle my emotions. How could this significant memory exist when my reality had rewritten its intent? I tore my gaze away from the screen and reached out for my journal, scribbling more frantic notes. This tape is an echo of what will never be. But why? My thoughts raced, each trampling over the other, searching for connection in the chaos. Clarity began to surface, a familiarity in my grandfather's journal entries. I flipped through its pages feverishly, searching for insights, for answers concealed within his scribbles. Each recorded memory seemed to carry a weight of caution, as if conveying lessons from someone who had once walked these very paths. Did he too witness moments that lingered in limbo? I felt as if I were standing at the crossroads of discovery, vines of fate wrapping around my limbs, urging me to uncover truths that had long remained hidden. The tapes are not merely reminders of the past, I whispered, letting the realization roll off my tongue, a mantra to inspire my growing courage. They are a map to weave your life anew, to navigate the uncharted waters of fate. The echoes of my voice faded into the corners of the dimly lit room, whispered to the shadows that had become my unwelcome companions. But the more I unraveled, the greater the doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if I was merely romanticizing my grandfather's worries, projecting my fears onto stories fashioned from a different time? Each leap into the unknown echoed with uncertainty. I felt the tightening of anxiety like a vice on my chest as I ruminated on the possibility that my actions could alter destinies, perhaps in ways I couldn't predict, whetting that instinctive urge to navigate a narrative that was never mine to control. Panic surged inside me as I contemplated the gravity of my search, the twists of fate at play hidden deep in the archives of familial history. I needed to maintain clarity, to provide guidance not just for myself, but for others who felt lost in their cycles of grief. I needed the symbiotic energy of shared experiences. If you've ever felt something similar, I decided, my voice rising, let's create a dialogue around these experiences. Comment below with your own stories of loved ones whose legacies live on through odd remnants like family videos, photographs, or recordings. I felt an invigorating shift as I ventured to invite others to join this quest. Would they resonate? My heart raced at the thought, hopeful that together we could navigate a world mishmashed by fate, where connections beg for revelation. I craved community, knowing that discussing potential futures while confronting loss would help me feel less alone, less like a ghost wandering through unused memories. As the tape continued to play, I found myself enraptured by my wife's laughter echoing my own memories. Each laugh was a note in a symphony that wove together the joys and heartbreaks, driving home the notion that moments are not just experiences. They are lessons passing through lives like whispers carried by the wind. There, within that familiar atmosphere, the boundaries of time warped before me. I realized that these videos held the power to see glimpses of destinies that could intertwine among their strands, perhaps warning me of pitfalls or even steering me towards paths I could still choose. Maybe it wasn't about seeking the right answers, but rather embracing the arrangement of experiences. A thought bubbled inside me. What if this was my opportunity for growth? These captured moments could teach me to appreciate my life's complexities, foreshadowing not just the specter of loss, but the rich tapestry of relationships that flourished amidst pain. Each recollection was a reminder of love that transcends time, forbidding simple narratives of despair. With growing determination, I sharpened my focus on the screen, the images flickering vividly as I drew connections, mapping the patterns toward my own healing. I had become a detective of my emotions, extracting observations that leaped off the frames. But in the back of my mind still loomed the haunting question: what truths awaited me on this dark journey through my family's past? As the frame shifted, moments poured in relentless waves. Each swirl a whirlpool of emotion, beckoning me to face fears I still couldn't name. My heart thudded loudly as I realized I was perhaps on the brink of unearthing a revelation beyond my imagination. At that moment, I forged ahead, steadfast in my intention to confront memories as they unfolded. Pain and beauty intertwined, calling me deeper into the spiraling narrative. In pushing through, I sought to unravel this inscription of familial legacy, like a quest that continued to shape my destiny, whether I liked it or not. And with every compelling play of the tape, each captured moment dared me to seek out connections and communicate with those who understood the weight of our shared histories, and the yearning to reclaim what was lost, but perhaps find something even greater along the way. As the scene shifted once more, I felt compelled to engage entirely with the unfolding narrative. The laughter of my wife rang through the speakers, wrapping around me like a warm embrace, yet each note pulled sharply at my heart. September 15, 2024, flashed across the screen. How was it possible to witness a memory that had not yet occurred? My chest tightened with the weight of its impossibility. This was more than a mere tape. It felt like a paradox I needed to unravel. With every flicker from the VCR, I sensed deeper truths looming just beyond my reach. I dedicated myself to dissecting the images, determined to extract lessons woven into the fabric of these fleeting moments. Every subtle interaction, every shared smile, promised something intricate yet concealed in layers of time's design. Suddenly, clarity surged through me, a flash of understanding that illuminated the reasons behind my grandfather's meticulous documentation. His journals weren't mere chronicles of his life, but an intricate map drawn with intention, leading me through the pathways of the past toward an understanding of the present. Each snippet recorded in the journals resonated with the very essence of affection and loss I felt now, as if he too had foreseen the pain I would experience. As I reached for the pages, I left my concentration on the live feed. I had encountered fragments of his wisdom, hints layered with caution and hope, as if he grasped this temporal anomaly long before I did. These videos weren't solely designed to evoke nostalgia. They were gateways to guide both him and now me through experiences of love interwoven with loss. I couldn't shake off the question haunting me. What might my actions reveal about our shared destinies? In determining that, I would need to cultivate insight rather than be trapped in despair. The knowledge of these intersections could arm me with the strength to guide my life, shape it into something more than simply reacting to sorrow. As the hours dissolved, I felt an urgency rising inside me, a desire to break free from cycles of grief. These tapes, these snippets of future illumination, demanded engagement. I hesitated for an instant, wondering just how my past could be entwined with my present, but I knew the answer lay within my willingness to confront the dissonance. With growing determination, I turned back to the swirling emotions on screen. My wife leaned in closer to my past self. The physical connection they shared elicited a pang of yearning in my chest. In that moment, firmly grounded in the reality of her absence, I felt the weight of childhood memories intertwined with decisions yet to unfold. Perhaps somewhere in their shared laughter lay an opportunity for me to wrestle with my own sense of agency. Tears stung my eyes, mingling with the ghosts of regret. I was reminded that while I could not change the past, what awaited me remained malleable, full of potential. My exploration of this legacy is just beginning, I whispered aloud, recognizing more than ever that these tapes distill my journey, tangled emotions and all. My intent was not for catharsis alone, but to share as a communal experience. If you found value in what I've shared, hit that thanks button below, I encouraged, suddenly recognizing the power of mutually supportive voices. Your engagement inspires me to uncover the complexities of this odyssey, not just for myself, but for us all. Each contribution fortifies our collective stories. As I settled into my surroundings, I felt the gravity of shared burdens, individual experiences coalescing into something larger than myself. I desperately craved these connections as we each navigated this world of temporal anomalies, engaged with one another to create meaning that transcended the confines of grief. Every frame of the tape morphed into a bridge connecting hearts and histories across time. I embraced the notion that perhaps hidden within these moments were lessons not just for my own healing, but for countless others who sought clarity within the echoes of love and loss. With renewed determination, I focused once again on the screen, ready to plumb the depths of what lay ahead. This journey had morphed into an exploration not solely of the past, but deeply rooted in revealing the power of resilience. As the laughter rang out, I felt its reverberations echoing through my heart, reminding me that every joyous note still contained the essence of hope, while steering me away from solely dwelling in sorrow. And so I pressed play, prepared to encounter revelations that would guide my understanding of time's ebb and flow, buoyed by the belief that in confronting my fears, I could carve a new path, not only for myself, but for those who shared in this journey, eternally tied by our stories. As the tape rolled on, an image of my wife emerged, smiling radiantly into the camera. Her happiness felt both intoxicating and suffocating, a vivid reminder of moments now forever altered by the cruel hand of time. The warmth of that memory curled around my heart like a bittersweet embrace, but it also kindled a fierce determination within me. I couldn't ignore the complexities of our intertwined past any longer, nor could I let the specter of grief dictate my existence. Instead, I chose to actively engage with it. Every shot of the video gushed with vibrancy, deliberately crafted as if my younger self understood that these moments would one day hang by a thread. But what if they were more than just memories? What if these snippets contained inevitable lessons meant to guide not just my past self, but me in this present moment? Each shared glance, each laughter, carried the potential for enlightenment, hidden just beneath the surface. My grandfather's journals came into focus again, bursting with wisdom waiting to be disseminated. These weren't mere recollections, they were radical insights woven through generations, longing to be deciphered. What if I could piece together the lessons my grandfather had meticulously documented? If I did, perhaps I could navigate similar temporal anomalies and help others who suffered under the weight of unresolved love and loss. I felt my heartbeat quicken as I returned my attention to the video, eager for the next revelation. With every flicker across the screen, I could sense the potential for transformation, not just for myself, but for a community longing to connect through shared narratives. This drew me to the realization that to traverse the complexity of time itself, I needed the strength found in collective voices. I wanted to create a network of empathy where everyone could unravel their truths together. If you want to delve deeper into these explorations with me, consider joining the channel membership. I spoke earnestly, feeling the weight of shared journey ahead. This isn't just about my experiences, it's about all of us navigating the terrain of grief and memory. In our collective stories, we uncover resilience and growth in ways we could never achieve alone. The thought of forming a collective space where stories bloomed filled me with hope. Just as my grandfather had compiled his struggles and triumphs, I wished for others to share theirs. Together, we would illuminate pathways through the fog of heartache, seeking solace in one another's tales. If I could assemble a community bonded through layers of shared experiences, we could celebrate the unbreakable bonds forged even through loss. With this urge swelling in my chest, I focused intently on the screen, my younger self still determinedly cherishing every second captured. As laughter rang around me, I couldn't help but ruminate on time's duality, how it intertwined love with the inevitability of sorrow. It felt like a lesson that would echo long after these videos ceased to play, a profound acknowledgement that each moment serves a purpose, shining light on the shadows we often wish to ignore. What unfolded before me began unveiling timeless reflections on the essence of connection, I realized that each memory was like a charmed thread weaving through the fabric of my family's narrative, binding us across generations. Perhaps every experience, whether steeped in joyous celebration or tinged with pain, contributes to a deeper understanding of our humanity. In that moment, I felt my perspective shift, recognizing the inevitability of sorrow and empathy as pathways to growth. I could honor my wife's legacy and my own journey by inviting others to share their stories, embracing the lessons carried forward.
The light of hope provided warmth against the chill of despair, a gentle reminder that within the uncertainty of life lies the power to alter our stories. Excited by the potential impact of this community, I pressed further into the depths of the tape. What other gems lay undiscovered within these layers? What truths could I distill from them? I immersed myself in this fresh endeavor, knowing that with every shared pause and cherished memory, the burdens of our collective grief could slowly transform into hope. I was not alone on this path. This journey intertwined with countless others, forming a powerful narrative that would beckon us into light. An intoxicating possibility swirled within me. Together, we could learn to navigate our shared temporal anomalies and write new endings to the stories we believed were fixed. As the images continued to unfold, I held my breath, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The dance of time continued. Every frame, every laugh prepared me to confront the inexorable forces that shaped my existence. This was not merely a recollection, but a journey propelled by shared insight, a venture that promised to bind us all as we reclaimed our stories and found strength in our connections. The video continued, the images swirling and morphing as if time itself were playing tricks on my perception. Each frame revealed more of my wife's laughter, sparkling with light, but it tugged starkly at my heart. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to focus as realization struck me like a bolt of clarity. These moments housed greater insights than I had initially perceived. They weren't merely echoes of the past. They projected possibilities for innate healing and, intriguingly, the exploration of time's elasticity. As I sat there, absorbed in visual time travel, a question loomed behind the surface of my thoughts. What had my grandfather really known about the nature of time? I recalled his journals, the dense pages filled with careful observations, deliberate choices, and an unyielding desire to document the lessons buried underneath layers of familial love and loss. Flipping through those pages, I began to connect the dots between his insights and the currency of the moments unfolding on the screen. Understanding bloomed, illuminating a path I had scarcely dared to tread freely. If these tapes contained vital threads of wisdom, neighbors to ancestors we had lost, I felt a stirring in my heart, a commitment to unveil their meaning. I turned my attention back to the screen, where my younger self engaged in a conversation with my wife, their dialogue rich and layered with complexity. What would I learn from my own choices reflected in their exchanges, especially now that my perception had been shifted toward my broader search for understanding? It dawned on me that if I were to truly embrace this legacy, I must delve deeper. Unraveling these intricate bonds would transcend personal healing. It could redefine how we collectively approach our experiences of sorrow. Shouldn't I take these messages of resilience beyond my solitary journey and share them in a tangible form? What if I compiled my discoveries, my grandfather's reflections entwined with my own, and created a deeper narrative that could resonate with others caught in similar spirals of time? With that notion blooming, I lifted my gaze to the monitor and murmured a newfound resolution. This exploration is just the beginning. I must share this knowledge. It cannot be merely for me. Each person engaged in my channel deserved to understand that they too could utilize their stories to illuminate pathways for healing in times of grief and disarray. If this resonates with you, let me offer you something I've put together, I said, my voice rising in excitement.
I've documented over 50 cases of temporal paradoxes in vintage technology, every detail and unfathomable theory I've encountered, including examples of our collective journeys through loss and memory. It's all in my complete ebook, where the lessons we uncover move beyond the personal to illuminate the universal. You can find the link in the description. The idea of sharing this treasure trove electrified me further. Each anecdote, each inscrutable photograph imbued with history, it felt crucial to distill the wisdom I had gathered. The thought of weaving together a tapestry of shared experiences, threaded through the continuing legacy of intertwining grief and joy, imbued me with purpose. With unwavering energy coursing through me, I resumed my exploration of the video. The scenes melted into one another seamlessly, forming a rich mosaic that blurred the lines between past, present, and even future. I caught fleeting glimpses of conversations not just steeped in nostalgia, but also promising future paths yet to be forged. I felt a compulsion to decipher the emotions expressed in the video, to grasp how laughter could cut through the fears and uncertainties that extended like shadows behind the bright scenes. Here, I began to note the evolution of our shared intimacy, soaking in details that revealed layers I had previously overlooked. It became evident that my wife's joy permeated even moments of uncertainty. In that illumination, I saw how love intertwined our past with the swirling uncertainties of the future. I felt simultaneously anchored and freed by this knowledge. The struggle between loss and legacy unfolded before me, a dance between keeping one's spirit alive and surrendering to the waves of time. I felt determined, not merely as an observer of my past life, but as an active participant in shaping what lay ahead. And so, as my thoughts traveled further into these reflections, I forged connections that transcended simple nostalgia. The existence of these tapes was more than a documentation of bygone days. They served as a personal inquiry into my value as a storyteller and a conduit for building community. Each revelation ignited a passion within me. I knew I wasn't alone in this quest for meaning, and those who ventured alongside me deserved a voice. I envisioned a collective that learned from the vibrant threads of loss that knit us together, strength woven into our stories beyond grief alone. With a newfound clarity burning brightly in my chest, I embraced my role. The laughter from the video continued to echo, beckoning me to journey deeper and retrieve insights previously hidden in the darkness. I was prepared to do just that. As I leaned forward, ready to confront whatever came next, I felt buoyed by the knowledge that together, through shared narratives and the story still waiting to be told, we would transcend the boundaries of time, binding our legacies together in ways that defied the confines of the past. As the video rolled on, a new scene emerged, where my younger self shared an intimate moment with my wife, her eyes shimmering with joy. I found myself enchanted by the simple beauty of the frame. Every laugh, every gesture, the embodiment of love etched into time. Yet in this moment of joy, I felt an unsettling undercurrent tugging at my consciousness, a reminder that joy was always laced with sorrow, and memories were often bittersweet. I held my breath, pondering the complexity of the emotions on display. As their laughter filled the room, a sense of urgency nestled deeper within me. Here I was, witnessing moments so precious, yet tainted by what I had lost. I couldn't deny the pull. It was as if each fleeting moment asked for acknowledgement, urging me to confront feelings I had buried too deep. The tape continued to flicker, a never-ending loop that seemed simultaneously timeless and transient. I wanted to reach out, to share a dialogue with the past, to tell my younger self what lay ahead, educate him on the importance of cherishing every second. But more pivotal than that was the realization that each moment contained lessons I needed to extract, not only for myself, but for others who might grapple with similar profound grief. There was a dawning understanding. The laughter I witnessed was not only a vestige of the past, it was an invitation
an invitation to connect the fragmented pieces of my life and create something whole. My wife's laughter was the embodiment of resilience, not just to persist through grief, but to thrive despite it. It reminded me that the narratives we choose to focus on can either engulf us in despair or propel us toward profound understanding. Suddenly, it grasped me. This wasn't merely a video, but a manifesto of our lives, embodying paths intertwined with choices and possibilities. Every captured interaction drew new connections, showing me that love indeed has the power to bridge the chasms left by loss. In this moment of epiphany, inspiration rushed like a tidal wave. I was meant to share this with everyone who had ever felt the sharp pangs of grief, the hollow ache of an absence that refused to fade. If you're feeling these emotions with me, I spoke directly to the camera, the thoughts spilling from my heart, hit that thanks button below. Your contributions, whether through kind words or shared experiences, empower this journey we're on together. Knowing that others are out there, sharing this emotional tapestry with me, pushes me forward. Reaching out, I could feel a community beginning to coalesce, formed by shared burdens and collective hopes. The time-worn walls isolating me began to break down, as each experience shared would foster healing. I envisioned us, bound together in these narratives. Every click of the thank you button signified an affirmation of these connections, the knitting of stories that transcended the boundaries of individual pain. As I paused to let the gravity of what I had just articulated sink in, I noticed the tape had shifted once more. My younger self, engaged in deep conversation with my wife, was a sight that stung, yet felt vital. In looking at them, I realized the conversations explored their uncertainties, dreams yet to be realized, fears lingering beneath the light of laughter. I felt privileged to witness and to decode these moments, each layered with potential. As the scenes flickered by, it dawned on me that my role was to harness these layered truths, not to erase the sorrow, but to illuminate the intricate nature of resilience. From the shadows of grief, I could build something beautiful, a guide illustrating how loss shapes our lives, yet does not define them. The screen flashed vibrant images, each frame illuminated with colors that dance between nostalgic sadness and hopeful joy. It struck me that we could transform these memories, capturing the essence of the complexities of life. It was a juxtaposition, bittersweet realities and hopeful futures. Perhaps it was here, in this liminal space, that true healing lay. With renewed determination, I prepared to press on. Within every frame, every transmission of laughter, every echo of a shared smile, was the invitation to rebuild, to create new narratives filled with strength and connection. I would extract every morsel of wisdom along the way and share them with those battling their own tidal waves of grief. Holding my breath in anticipation, I felt time bend, pull, and stretch as memories overlaid future reverberations, echoing like whispers through my mind. Here I was, to embrace the fluidity of time, unlock its mysteries, and reveal the greater truths hidden within the chaos. With every subsequent scene unfolding, I committed to explore every nuance, to arm myself with insights that traverse generations. And as the laughter rang brightly, I noticed in it a power, a balm for the spirit promising healing, urging me onward. Even in times of sorrow, when life feels too heavy to bear, the pursuit of connection carries us through, binding us to one another amidst the world's chaotic beauty. As the frames flickered to an end, I felt the echo of a greater understanding settle within me, a clarity born from the desire to make every moment count. Pressing onward, I braced myself for the journey ahead, filled with hope and unwavering determination. Together, we would transcend the boundaries of time, linking our stories through shared wisdom, showing that even within the darkness, laughter still resonates like a beacon, guiding us home.
As the final frames of the video played out, the laughter of my wife seemed to stretch through time, filling the room with an echo that reverberated in my chest. It was intoxicating and bittersweet, reminding me of both the love we had shared and the void her absence created. I felt compelled to lean into this emotion, grappling with the wisdom held in laughter that danced on the edges of memory. What lessons did they whisper? The images flickered one last time, showing my younger self and my wife surrounded by friends, their joy palpable. Each smile felt like a thread entwined with deeper emotions, pulling me closer to the realization of how intertwined our lives were. Grief and joy unraveled before me, revealing intricate patterns woven into the tapestry of human experience. It was clear, every moment captured was a significant piece of a far larger story, the shared narratives of heartache and healing. Scarcely able to control the surge of emotions threatening to overwhelm me, I reached for the remote and paused the video. The stark stillness of the frame left me staring deep into their faces, searching for answers in the lines of joy etched on their skin. What unfathomable truths existed in this moment that might guide me through my grief? I took a deep, grounding breath, allowing myself to feel the weight of the realities resting on my heart. What I realized was an epiphany long overdue. We carry the legacies of those we love, not simply as echoes of their presence, but as living, breathing narratives that shape our actions, our transformations. Each choice I made reverberated in tandem with the choices made by those before me. It was a compelling reminder that my wife wasn't just a memory labeled with sorrow. She lived on in the warmth of shared laughter, guiding me through the living tapestry of life's unpredictability. To honor her, I needed to transform my pain into something empowering, not just for myself, but for others who felt displaced by loss. My heart raced at the thought. I could compile these reflections into something meaningful. If I could distill the wisdom carved out from both the laughter and the tears, perhaps I could offer a beacon of hope to others navigating similar paths of grief. Then an idea sparked within me, resonating with urgency. Not only should I share our story, but I could expand it. There were others out there, people clinging to the threads of their loved ones' memories, desperate for guidance, for strength and vulnerability. I envisioned writing an ebook, an exploration of the temporal anomalies I've uncovered through these tapes, intertwined with the heartwarming and heartbreaking stories from others who had endured loss and emerged transformed.
If this resonates with you, I stated softly, addressing the camera once more, I'm excited to share that I've documented these journeys, including over 50 cases of temporal paradoxes in vintage technology, perspectives that reveal the intricacies of love, loss, and resilience. If you're seeking insight or solace, my complete ebook holds lessons waiting to be discovered. You can find the link in the description. Energized by the thought of sharing this collection, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. This would serve as more than just a project. It could become a compass guiding others through their uncharted territories of grief. I envisioned each narrative serving as a thread in a larger fabric, connecting diverse stories of courage and healing, showing that we are never truly alone in our journeys. With renewed clarity, I glanced back at the paused video. The still image of my wife's smile seemed to radiate warmth and light. In that moment, I whispered a silent promise to her. I would honor her memory by transforming this tapestry of our lives into something that could inspire others. I could forge connections through the collective weight of our pain, an anchor for those lost at sea, a lifeline amidst the chaos of existence. I pressed play once more, watching as the happy memory resumed, her laughter washing over me like a soothing balm. Beneath the surface of that joy lay an understanding that each laugh, no matter how fleeting, reminded us to embrace the present. It was in this embrace that we could weave our narratives and create a shared experience that transcended suffering. Amidst the pain of loss emerged the undeniable light of love, echoing across the frames like ripples in time. And with each subsequent laugh, I vowed to gather those with me. Together, we transcend the confines of sorrow and cultivate a sanctuary where storytelling was revered as an art form. I envisioned moments where we exchanged stories, learned from one another's legacies, all reflecting the resilience woven within our shared histories. As the video drew to a close, I felt newfound determination swelling like a fire in my heart. The journey ahead seemed daunting yet full of potential. A new chapter in my life that I would embrace with open arms, knowing that I was taking my first steps toward creating a collective narrative where love, loss, and healing intersected. With my pen poised and heart open, I was ready to capture the human experience in all its beautiful complexity. To immortalize our stories in a tapestry that not only honored the past, but also paved the way for future generations. Tonight, I would begin. The screen faded to black, leaving the sound of laughter echoing softly in my mind, each note a reminder of the love that still connected us. I sat for a moment, absorbing the weight of what I had experienced. Each frame of the video was a vital piece in a larger puzzle, revealing the intricate dance between joy and sorrow that defined our lives. In that silence, I understood what had to be done. I needed to transform my grief into something powerful, not just for my own healing, but for others who felt adrift in their loss. I envisioned creating an ebook, a compilation of my journey alongside the stories of others who had experienced similar heartaches. This could be a source of strength and understanding, weaving together our narratives into a unified tapestry of resilience. I'm excited to share that I've documented our journeys, including over 50 cases of temporal paradoxes in vintage technology. I spoke aloud, my voice steady as I imagined addressing an audience. If you're seeking insight or solace, my complete ebook holds lessons waiting to be discovered. You can find the link in the description. With renewed purpose, I glanced at the still image of my wife's joyous smile on the screen. The warmth radiating from her seemed to encourage me. I whispered a silent promise. I would honor her by channeling my pain into something meaningful. Together, we could forge bonds through our experiences, a lifeline for those lost at sea. Pressing play again, I relished in the sound of her laughter. Each moment was a reminder to embrace the present, a beacon to guide what was to come. With every smile and shimmer of joy, the understanding deepened that love endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. My vision of a sanctuary began to crystallize, a place where storytelling turned into healing. What if we could gather together, sharing our legacies? I realized that this was not just about my story, but the mosaic of voices that could help each other navigate the sorrow and beauty of life's journey. As the final frames faded, I felt a swell of determination rising within me. The path forward seemed daunting, yet brimming with potential. With each keystroke, I would capture the essence of humanity, immortalizing stories that honored the past while lighting the way for future generations. Tonight, the journey would begin. Fueled by love and vulnerable truth, I would write not only for myself, but for all of us, creating a legacy that honored the connections formed through shared experiences. In the embrace of memories, we would discover the resilience that binds us across time, turning pain into purpose, one story at a time.